Let's change it up, and I'm going to split this into multiple episodes because we're going over an hour here. But let's talk about digital transformation. Let's talk about the challenges of digital transformation for both mid-market and small cap companies, but then also those that are legacy large cap, and what we're seeing, because we saw digital transformation as a buzzword and going to the cloud and what is the cloud and all that about 5 years ago. And even really before 2019, towards the end when COVID hit, it still was more of a discussion about digital transformation and a marketing hip buzzword. And then all of a sudden COVID-19 happens and it forces everyone to have to realize what digital transformation is: hybrid remote workforce, communications, cloud computing, and some were not able to adapt, and smaller businesses went out of business. So can you kind of talk about, through your consulting lens, of what you've seen and why the adoption is not as fast as what you would think, knowing that you have to eventually get there?
I have to reveal some of my consulting secrets then if I have to talk about. So just for the sake of your audience, let me just say, I worked on very large digital transformation projects sometimes which have gone wrong, and worked on projects like defining a strategy of a company in terms of digital. So here is the ground reality. Okay. Gartner has said that 85% of do-it-yourself AI ML solution fails. And when Gartner said it, I felt they are conservative, because even the solution that succeeds, a lot of them succeed on paper. That means they are actually pretty bad. And there is no way the team can actually maintain the competitiveness of the solution that is considered in 15% success. The second is, in BCG, we did a study and we realized that, especially I was focusing on the energy side, that in oil and gas energy sector, there are 70% companies actually fall below in their digital strategy implementation what they were set to. Okay, and this is where there is component come of ethnographic research is that why so many smart people are failing in it. So this is what I learned in my research is, see, in large companies, IT sector or IT division is like a support function first, before the whole digital thing started. When the digital transformation was declared, suddenly people became overnight digital transformation expert in company. Everybody walks like an expert in the company. So there's a lot of this imposter.
Isn't it funny how that works out?
Yeah. The second is that now people in IT divisions who have been on the side, people are thinking, okay, are they going to be the part of digital transformation? Is digital transformation is going to be core? Suddenly, these people are brought and their responsibility level is actually increased. But these people were always part of support function. They actually never been the part of core business. So they don't understand core business that well. Then this what happened is, okay, now we need to do cloud, where we need to hire some people. Okay, where are you going to hire these people? You go to Google, you go to Microsoft, you go to AWS, and you pick these people. Now these people are coming into your company, and what they were doing, they were actually building products. You always used to be the part of core business, and you tell we have this problem. You say, okay, we'll make a product for this. We're going to hire Snowflake and AWS, and we are going to build this. So because their mindset and how they have seen money is being made in business is by building things and by applying. And they are having this slide, we'll do the data monetization and all that. Everything is fine, but what is happening on core business? So digital transformation in large legacy companies have started with a euphoria mode. When people actually started, that time they realized that how complicated and complex the data is. And that particular time, people realize that building whatever we call like the single source of truth, it's like a holy grail. So a lot of companies, they say their investor relations and presentations that how great their digital transformation is. And then you look their bottom line and numbers are actually going back. So digital transformation at this particular point is still in the late stage of that honeymoon period, where people are portraying things are going great, but they are not actually going great. And the reason for that is A lot of people in organizations actually understand that digital transformation is working remote, is digitalization of process. Um, so in one of the example, I mean, I was doing this business trip, and there were like a lot of processes because of COVID. I mean, there are country processes, there are company processes, there are city and airport processes, the company the transit country you are going through the country. I actually did like email which I'm receiving in managing the trip in my inbox were actually 100 plus. It doesn't include the emails I sent or the instant messaging or the calls I made. And I said, I mean, this is not realistic. Okay, I mean, of course, some are mandatory, but the internal company emails and all that, I said, this is not, I mean, this is not digitally transformed company.
Sure.
This is company with a lot of digital processes, but it is not digitally transformed company. And I actually shared this insight with the management, and I said, I mean, like people at least I'm working with that, I'm not impressed, I'm not happy because this is not sustainable. This is why I came up with a very early idea that business travel is never going back where it was. Okay, because I've been traveling. I used to be travel like 200 days a year. So I'm a heavy traveler. And so, yeah, I mean, so this is what is happening is that people are having their own version of digital world. Okay. And since from top to bottom, people who knows digital technologies, they don't understand the core business. Who understand core business, they don't have the view on the digital technologies. People like me who are actually working in both sectors are very rare. And this is exactly like why I joined this position. I mean, I had to leave it because of some personal priorities for myself. But yeah, I mean, it is the challenge.
No, I think you just hit the big jackpot there. The point that you had there was you have those who are in the core business who understand what the company mission is, how to get the job done, how to drive revenues, how to drive the company forward. But then how do we accelerate that with the use of technology? And for me, when I think digital transformation, I think user experience, both for the customer and for the employee. How do we make those the most efficient and best experience? Because if you have the best experience, you're going to keep talent. And if you have the most efficient, you're going to drive great results that get you faster against the competition. And to your point, both sides don't know each other typically. So you have to, that's why there is positions in companies now, digital transformation officer, and they're trying to communicate, but yet they don't have the core knowledge, the tribal knowledge on the core business to then communicate that. So I'll
give you an example. I mean, to illustrate it. See, for example, what is the big challenge in a large company? So if I take, because since I worked in energy and I go 15 years back in my energy career, large companies, people don't have clue that shale oil is going to happen in 2007. They don't have clue that how the solar and wind is, because they have a view of future and they see this is the future and we will eventually get it there. They don't concede. I mean, everybody talks smart, everybody talks about disruption will happen, we are going into technology, but somewhere in their mind, and I used to be the part of that group, so I know that it will eventually happen. So the sense of urgency and the fear of disruption is not there. And this is where one of the biggest challenges that come is that a lot of these people in the company and like if I'm in an oil and gas company and I am leading a major capital project, which I used to do, I had a budget of $1 billion plus. If somebody tells me that based on my digital analysis, I think you have made these orders, I have delayed it by 2 weeks, I'll get the guy fired. This is the power play in big companies, that there are people who control power positions, and power gets to your, absolute power gets to your head. So now suddenly what is happening is you are increasing the source of power by giving power to these digital change management or whatever. And these core stakeholders who are holding these powers, they are not involved. They are looking like Rolex in company. So this is where a lot of friction actually been introduced in companies.
And in IT is going through this transformation of being the team that's on the boat with the holes, and it's trying to plug all the holes from letting the ship sink, to now being asked, I need you to be the driver. I need you to be the driver of revenue and figure out, how do we make our company innovate and compete ahead of our competition, because we don't want to be left behind. That's a transformational shift that IT is not, some companies have not transitioned well to, because, to your point, the core leadership team has been like a relic and hasn't had the interest or education on how technology can be an enabler, opposed to a OpEx or CapEx side. So
in IT and the software industry, I mean, especially largely out of Silicon Valley, there is actually also a bit of bias. I mean, 80 to 90% people who goes into programming and these kind of digital, they come from a very nerdy background. These are the people who just follow a leak of career and a path. They do what they are told. They're not, every one of them is not visionary. That means if you hire 10 AWS guys and suddenly they were doing some work and they put a nice CV, and now you suddenly say, oh, you need to build a digital strategy. These guys have never made digital strategy.
mhm.
I mean, today there are actually very few people who have actually understand the term and can actually work in that domain. So what is happening is that we are bringing the complexities and the problems these people have, or the skill they don't have, and we are asking them to solve things which even we cannot solve them. So for example, if I'm going to hire people from Google and I want to, they have a vision of future which Google has taught them. So when they come into an industry which is not theirs, they are in uncharted waters, and their defense mechanism is up, and they are trying to find things. Okay, what I learned from Google, how can I apply it there, rather than taking a step back and thinking exactly, okay, what the problem are we dealing here?
No, that's looking at from, I'm the new guy. Let me understand this business before I go try to shift things. Well, let's shift gears to energy. You were talking earlier about energy. I would like to know two things. One, what is your take on renewable energy and AI being able to distinguish when renewable energy needs to be distributed to solar or wind? Because our favorite company, or one of my favorite company for sure, is Palantir. It's now my number one holding, and they just had two commercials of showing this. One of them was this movie-like commercial that was just amazing, where they showed a CEO of an energy company having to be in a deposition about making decisions. And I'll probably actually play the commercial, hopefully for our YouTube audience here later on when I edit this, to answer to shutting down a power grid based on the little data they had on a power outage, which then causes 20 million people to have no power. And the hospitals that are there, their generator does not go and turn on. And then we're talking about lawsuits and loss of life. And then they rewind the tape back and say, well, if we would have had the data, we could have made the right decision. And they say, well, because we had Palantir, we were able to dissect the intermittency, the power issues, how we would fail over ahead of time before the storm hits. And then also they've made commercials about how they're helping for solar and wind to distribute when it's not, when the sun's not out, when do we need to pump that power? And it's so interesting because one of my other investments, STEM Inc., is they have 75% of the California energy. They own 75% of that with renewable distribution with their AI Athena software. And so I just wonder, is Palantir going to take over that, or is STEM going to be a partner? And are there others that are going to come out? Because STEM's been around for quite a while for their software, and they've perfected it, and now they're trying to go to market in all these other states. So would just love to hear your take on the whole energy concept.
So I think first thing, Dom, I think I have to congratulate that you caught me in a very right window, which is I am just completed my set of non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreement, and I haven't sent the next paper. So I do a lot of things. I do consulting, digital investment and all that, but my main job is energy. This is where I advise people, large companies, national oil companies, um, governments, regulators on roadmaps, banks, under different roles, different positions over the time. And so this is something where I'm also connected to people that looking. So I think there are few things people are not getting about renewables. Okay, I think there is a word transition and all that. See, first is the global demand of energy is increasing.
Yeah.
Okay, and the price point at which renewables are coming are very competitive. Forget the climate change for the timing. I mean, it's just look purely from economic point of view. Okay, now what is happening, because solar, wind, hydrogen, everything has to scale. Right now, renewables are still region locked. That means there are projects in a certain region. Okay, but this region lock situation is not like oil and gas. That means oil and gas is in the Middle East, it's in Middle East. You are region locked to that country for 50 years, then you will be region locked for next 50 years. Renewables, it will not happen like that. That means you people and entrepreneur will realize that we can democratize the supply chains. Moving forward, we don't have to wait for that. So the grid infrastructure has to change. There is no option. It's nothing to do with climate change. This is going to happen because it makes better business sense. Okay. The second thing is, this will not stop. That means if you are in an area, commodity is finite. You will not increase the size of commodity. I mean, you will do more research, more drilling, but commodity in principle was finite. This is again not a case of renewables. That means if there is a good market and available market where people are paying premiums, more players will come there.
Sure.
So people will fight on cents here. And the moment you are going to fight on cents and services, there is literally no way you can survive without data, analytics, AI implementation. You need a game. And we already know that when you have an edge based on data and AI, this edge is not linear. This edge is not 1%, 2%. It's a substantial edge. So company and players who comes with best data edge, AI edge, and edge AI, yeah, I mean, they will serve and they will make better sense on these margins. So renewable is happening. People like it, people don't like it. That's their own choice.
Sure.
The amount of energy, and we see, and this is how the economists work. They say, oh, this energy demand is going like this. No, energy demand will not grow like that. The moment energy is cheaper, you will actually use more energy. Energy per capita is going to increase. There have been generations of or sections of people who never had even a single watt of energy. If you are going to create energy from new sources, all new kind of customers are going to emerge. So the energy sector is, I mean, we are looking for a sector that is going to take nearly $10 trillion of investment in 20 years. Okay, and this $10 trillion of investment will create value for those who has strength in terms of data and AI. This is renewable is going to build on the shoulders of data and AI, because people are realizing, and now with the regulatory, with the COP26, like in UK, regulators are asking everyone has to report their carbon footprint. Okay, the moment you start reporting carbon footprint, the whole business is different. Because for example, say I'm doing a business and I'm getting a revenue. Now somebody tells me that this business is creating this much carbon footprint and you have to pay this much carbon tax. I might realize that better I sell that business or I don't do that business, because my revenues are not enough to pay for the carbon tax. So the whole core businesses are about to be disrupted just because of their carbon footprint choices.
And Palantir saw this, and as a carbon neutrality or carbon neutral product, we talked about earlier about modularizing Foundry and verticals. They know that's coming, and
because Because the regulators, if I ask you, Dom, what is your carbon footprint? You will do some analysis and you will give it to me. 2 years down the line, regulations have changed. And I say, based on what you have shown, you are actually exposed now. People need to understand that when the issue is about compliance, you need best product, you need best service coming out of it. Okay. And renewables are going to come. You see how many people, I mean, like, for example, big tech is saying, okay, we want to be all renewable energy, our data centers. That means somebody has to produce that renewable energy. Somebody will compete for that renewable energy. If they find that nobody else is doing, they will do their own renewable energy. So it's no longer a question. It has crossed that inflection point. Okay. And like I said, I mean, I tweeted a few days back that I believe oil prices are gonna go stay high. Okay. There are reasons for that. I mean, if oil price from this point onward is going to be artificially controlled in terms of the supply is more than demand, and supply is going to be more than demand for a long time on a longer duration, except near-term disruptions. The only way you are going to control the pricing is by curtailing productions. So it's going to be, and every time you give that kind of premium, I mean, renewables becomes more and more competitive. It's resilient. People say, okay, yeah, it doesn't have that kind of flexibility. So are you going to write it off because they don't have the flexibility today? Are you seeing the solutions, what they are today? See what they will be. You give 1 inch to someone who is going to, who has the right solution and idea, he will take 100 inch from. I think renewable has reached that point. Are we going to see the
with STEM?
Yeah. I have not interacted with them that much as of today. I mean, at least outside my confidential things I know from here and there. But in general, what I see is that, and this is what I discussed earlier also. Now, when you put this on top of grid, and these grids also have like 5G network enabled and Starlink internet, that means the kind of models you can push to the edge AI is actually going to be much larger, much more complex. So yeah, I mean, this is
are like
if Palantir can, yeah, if Palantir can play their cards well, their foundry carbon module could be as big as the rest of their business. Because all these companies, first thing before they do anything in net zero, first thing they need to start reporting and assessing what their carbon footprint is. And the way it is done today, it's very basic. I mean, it's based on your, so actually polluters report how much they are actually polluting. Because regulators and authority has no way to do it. But think about a point that the regulator and authority says that you give me your data and I assess it myself. And I can assess your situation in 5 days, and I can do it like for 500,000 companies. That's a different situation altogether. So this is quite big actually. I mean, people may not realize it, and to be honest, there is no guarantee Palantir will succeed in it because the scale is so big. They need to expand so fast, and this is where their weakness lies. They have always shown this weakness of go to market and scale up fast. That's what I always say. They are leaving money on table. I mean, 40% growth. Yeah, it looks pretty good number, but market is expanding much faster. There were so many people you haven't reached. There are so many people in the industrial sector who even don't know that you are a SaaS company. So you are not doing enough. I mean, that's one of my biggest issues on Palantir. I mean, I always keep it until I will see it change. The product is what I think is the best in the industry. Okay. Are they selling it best? No.
So they're definitely a front runner then for going after the carbon neutral initiative and renewable energies. We've already seen that. Would you lump in Tesla as another one that would be a formidable AI company that, hey, they have solar, they have all this autonomous data, they have Starlink, they have SpaceX, all these different things. And obviously I know SpaceX is a separate company, but Elon has a lot of data and a lot of AI and some of the best talent to be the sole EV energy provider, right? Would you agree with that, or do you think there's other competitors or other players out there that are going to come to the table?
I think Tesla ambition is very clear. I think they have already made it in their AI day. and they don't have a choice to be second tier in AI, the kind of problem they are solving. For autonomous taxi, and especially the approach they have taken, which is a non-lidar based, camera based, vision based, now they're in radars. Uh, they are relying heavily on AI, and they have the right team, they have the right approach for it. So I would bet Tesla to become AI as a service for sure. Because if you are, so you remember, like a lot of time they said, Karpathy and Elon, is that when they are trying to solve the autonomous solution, they have to solve a large portion of general AI. So if you have solved a large portion of general AI, I mean, monetizing it is pretty much given. You will do it. And like you saw, I mean, like what they have done in the case of SpaceX, they got the reusable rockets, and they needed to find a way to fund their Mars expedition. So they came up with the idea of Starlink. And Tesla is an ambitious company, and now they have got blood, they have got success, they are cash flow positive and things like that. And they have a technology. And as much as an outsider, I know Elon, yeah, he would love to take that fight against Google for AI, even if it doesn't matter how, I mean, he wouldn't want, I think his ambitions are much higher. So AI is definitely, but there is a thing in this particular cases, like the kind of solutions for AI, what Tesla is doing and what Palantir is doing, there's a bit of difference in that part. Okay. Like for example, so like for example, like because even if you are solving a large portion of general AI, the implementation define what kind of models you are doing. In case of Tesla, it's an autonomous solution. In case of Palantir, they are working on a solution that has a very large impact. Okay, because you get one thing wrong, two countries will start war. That's a whole different story. Okay, so there are going to be few companies which are going to be popular in AI domain, and I believe, I mean, Google is definitely going to be top dog for a very long time. I mean, Tesla is definitely a worthy competitor.
I hope you throw NVIDIA in there, buddy.
No, I mean, like NVIDIA, because NVIDIA unique, the approach is quite unique. I mean, NVIDIA was one of the first company, and actually Elon has also acknowledged it, that who brought GPU into AI game. Okay, and the whole game has changed. So like I said, I mean, these, and everybody doesn't need super AI. I mean, everybody doesn't need Skynet.
Sure.
People need things, and same thing like you are seeing in apps today. If you go to App Store, you will see 90% apps do very simple things. So people need all kind of different sort of AI solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So there is going to be, but the thing is, companies who will have large premium kind of solutions, they will get large margins. But AI will be commoditized for all of you. Actually, AI is commoditized even today, up to a large extent. I mean, you can get all of these AI ML libraries and NLP. So yeah,
could you see Tesla selling their AI and licensing it?
Yep.
Like you said, as AI as a service, yep. and be the de facto, hey, if you want an autonomous car, you got to use our AI algorithms.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much given, I think, in their case, because the reason is their car doesn't have lidar, and nobody else is developing vision-based AI like them. So if you are using autonomous solution on Tesla, you have to use Tesla FSD and whatever the future version it is. Okay, actually, this is actually very smart. Because, for example, tomorrow you take a Ford car or a Lucid car with all these sensors. Okay. And given the rules, I mean, somebody can run a case and they say, okay, I don't want to use the solution that has been given by Lucid for autonomous. I want to buy a third-party solution. Lucid may cry about it, whatever. But if the case goes to Supreme Court and the autonomous solutions are popular, we know that kind of facility will be available. Okay, it's a basic freedom. Okay. In that particular case, Tesla is not that simple, because Tesla has taken an approach which not a lot of people are doing. So building a solution for Tesla without having the resources of Tesla,
right,
is actually very difficult. So Tesla might have option to sell the third party solution on a lot of other vehicles because they are thin in terms of sensors, then actually other can sell on Tesla. So it's an advantage Tesla than Lucid, Rivian, or whatever. I mean, Waymo. It's very difficult.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end our conversation. I know we went a little over, but we'll cut this up into 2, maybe even 3 episodes. I would just say, like I said, we are going through a tumultuous time in the market where a lot of new investors are never experienced this, right? They think stocks go up 100% all the time, right? We saw some companies 9-bag or 8-bag, in a year in 2020. So that's not normal. The normal stock market goes about 8 or 7%. And if you're getting over 15% annual returns, you're going to be just fine. And that's exceptional over the long term. So what would you leave our viewers with just some words of wisdom? Because one of the things I've taken away from this conversation is you are looking for companies that are looking to solve problems that aren't even necessarily defined as problems yet, but you can see the TAM, you can see the leadership, and you can see the possibilities that would make it a multi-bagger, and then spreading your bets based on the trends. Is that a fair assessment?
That's quite fair. I think one of the mistake I made as an investor for a very long time is I always wanted to be like someone. Okay, like I do this, I'm doing like Buffett kind of strategy, or I'm doing like this Peter Thiel kind of strategy. The fact is everyone has a unique experience, unique financial situations, and unique things they want to achieve. So until and unless you are a unique version of investor in yourself, yeah, you're not getting anywhere. Anything you're getting is luck and circumstances. I mean, a lot of things I mean, for me, like I exactly know today that what I'm not going to do in industry. So a lot of time people comes up and they say, want to do this is something I'm just not comfortable. So an investor has to understand that if you are doing something because others are doing, yeah, you are going to get hurt. If you see someone making 10x on a stock and you can sit back and say, oh yeah, I didn't do it because I thought differently, that's okay. If you are in peace with that, if you lose money dom in market, it hurts. But if you miss a trade where you should have invested and that has gone 10 times, nothing hurts like that. Missing opportunity hurts more than losing opportunity. I mean, losing money on opportunity. So once you reach that point where you start bothering that, oh yeah, I made this investment, this was my thesis, it came out true. If your theses are getting wrong, then yes, you need to work. Okay, that means you need to, this is the basic learning part, that why my theses are wrong about companies, what I'm not learning. You need to listen people. You also need to understand the bias in the finance media and other people. I mean, there's a lot of things we can discuss about that sometime in future. But prices can go up and down. Forget prices for a while, but you think, what is your thesis about a company? Like, for example, I mean, I was expecting Palantir to go 45, 50 by the end of the year. I mean, at this particular point, if it is 22 by the end of the year, I'll be happy. But I'm not bothered too much about that. But I'm bothered like, okay, what it did in terms of like what I expected the company to do. How is it doing that part? What part of that I liked? What part of that I didn't like? So my thesis, and if my thesis about company has changed, like for example, Palantir, I change my thesis and I sell, say for example, Palantir at 25. After that, if Palantir goes to 65, I will not beat myself. I will not do anything because my thesis change and I'm not comfortable. So I don't care beyond that point, even if it goes to 150. Mm-hmm. So do not do investing you are not comfortable with, because then you cannot sleep.
And you have to earn your conviction, right? I mean, the only way you're going to be comfortable with it is that you do the research. You're not sitting there taking someone's stock pick. You're taking, I use several services just for research purposes to save time as a dad and husband and working full time. So I got to get my data, but I'm digging in and seeing if I agree with that. Excuse me, I needed water for a while now. I would just say it's never too late to start dominating your investments, but you have to do the research. You have to understand why you're doing these things and know your time horizon. Don't panic. Don't, I mean, there are some good traders out there. There's other ways to make market in the money. To each their own, but it's a personal choice and a personal decision. So make sure you're making the decisions based on what you've found, you've researched, and what you're comfortable with and financially comfortable with, right? So thank you again for joining, Sachin. Always a pleasure. I know our viewers are going to yield a lot of learning from this. Look forward to our next chat. It's almost 2 a.m. here in Nashville. So we'll call it a wrap now.
I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your learning, and I need to do the same because I get busy in my business and all that. Like I'm not that regular in terms of sharing and putting like sometime videos. I do like once in 10 days or something like that. And this is something which you inspire me, and other people in our group also inspire me because they are so diligent in doing this. And every time I see you guys, I wish I could be that diligent in doing that. So
well, it's a lot of late nights like this. But to me, this is what retirement is. This is my dream, to do this and talk stocks and help others realize they can change their generational wealth for their family, their kids, by investing in the stock market, that it can be that compounding growth for their families. They don't have to work a 9-to-5 till they're 70 and never see that they got to provide a better living for their family to what they really dreamed of. The stock market's one of the most unique areas where you can't go on the court and face LeBron James in basketball and expect to beat him, but you can actually beat professional investors because of the advantages we have set with patience and being able to invest in smaller cap companies and being able to not overreact and have to deal with options and trading and just finding good quality companies with great leadership, following trends, and then being patient. That's just some simple things that this is the only industry I know that you can make exponential money like that. So we'll leave it here, and we'll till our next time we talk.
Thanks for the invitation, and good night. Stay safe.